Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. This week, I can't believe that I got to chat with Tyler Johnston. He plays Stewart on Letterkenny, which I can't even really think of the character's name without hearing Roald say Stewart. Yeah, either you watch Letterkenny and know what I just meant, or you don't, and this is going to be a long 30-minute interview. But if you've ever seen Letterkenny, you're probably in love with it and are super excited, just like I was. Tyler's an incredibly fun interview. We had a great chat, and I hope you enjoy. Hey, Tyler.
Hey, Les.
Man, thank you so much for making time today.
How you doing?
Doing great. I have a hard time even imagining the person who plays Stewart in Hawaii. I only picture a postcard when it comes to Hawaii. So there's
imagine my skin extremely burnt and me hiding in the shadows.
Well, I really appreciate it. I'm sure whatever's going on outside is more beatific than this call. So I really appreciate the time today.
Hey, no, I'm happy to do it, honestly, and it's only 10 a.m. here, so we'll have.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
A little bit, and I'll go burn the rest of my body.
All right, you got something to do for the rest of the day, so we'll get to it.
Yeah. We're good.
I think for most of us in the States, I grew up in Texas. Running into Letterkenny was discovering 6 whole seasons of it already, and just this huge thing. And then I reached out to friends of mine that live in Toronto, and they were all like, "Yeah, it's Letterkenny," and just kind of amazed that we were even both get with it and what are you guys catching from it? And I remembered having the same feeling when I went to college and King of the Hill was on. And I had all these kids in my hallway that were from like St. Louis, Missouri, or northern U.S., and they were watching King of the Hill, and I'm like, guys, they aren't even jokes. What are you getting out of this show? This is just people. Like, that's just what suburbs in Dallas are like. For you, both getting to play Stewart, but then watching as this fan base has expanded, what has it been like for you watching people get into all these jokes? I mean, I for one went and looked up an absolutely astonishing amount of Canadian slang, and we're just absolutely wrecking the South with it now. So what's it been like for you watching this thing
what I'm talking about.
Get popular?
It's been pretty fascinating. Like it's been a bit of a slow burn too. Jared made a bunch of YouTube videos probably 7 years ago, 1 2-minute clips, and it got a couple million views and a bunch of laughs, and he wanted to develop it into a half-hour show, and then we got 6 episodes, season 1 order, and it's like kind of like a test order, like they wanted to just see how the show the show hit the airwaves, and then we got the 2nd season, and then the 3rd season was a big episode order. And when we heard it was going to America, it was like you always dream about having your weird little Canadian show, translate down into America. And when you guys sort of attached to it, it was special. It's very cool. Like the gang, when they were down in, I believe you are where? Sorry,
I'm in Austin. Yeah, so I got to meet them all at ATX Fest this past June, I guess.
They said they had so much fun down there, and the reception from the fans was very warm and welcoming, and that was pretty special to hear.
Yeah, it was really wonderful watching the screening here, because you could hear the nationality split in the audience on the joke laughs. Like the whole room would laugh at most of the jokes, and then there was like a subset of jokes that you'd find every Canadian in your row immediately because they're all cracking up.
A lot of people.
Okay.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who have to watch the show with subtitles on because they can't even catch a lot of the words.
I'll be honest, I watch everything with subtitles.
And I think,
but yeah.
Yeah, I've actually been doing that too as of late, like especially with Peaky Blinders and some of the British shows. Like I try and I just can't catch it. So I've been watching it with subtitles on too. I don't know if that's a sign of my age or what.
I feel like mine is clubs I went to in my 20s. Messed my hearing up. But
it's cool because with those jokes, like it has a lot of rewatchability to it. Like, you can watch episodes 2, 3, 4 times and catch different jokes.
oh yeah, yeah. I particularly I've gotten to see the screeners and the first for season 7, and the first episode actually is what they screened at ATX Fest, the Crack and Ag call-in show, and
yes,
you and Rold Stewart and Rold have a moment where they're going back and forth of musical subgenres, trying to figure out what the theme song ought to be, and it's not like a one-off thing. It's a format of joke that Letterkenny does often, where whether it's which combination of nationalities have you slept with or whatever, they run through these really fast, dense, language-heavy, almost tongue twisters, and I have to think that as a comedic actor, that has to be particularly difficult. What has that been like for you when you first came into these scripts? Did you quite understand the oddity of the jokes and how the show was going to play with language, and just how dense some of the stuff you were going to be asked to memorize would be?
I didn't know that it was going to be such an undertaking when I first became Stewart, but I learned very quickly that it was going to be a regular thing, that whenever I read the scripts, I was going to have Google at the ready, because usually when I go to set, I don't know, or I didn't know, half of the words I'm about to speak. And it's, we learn really quickly, if you don't memorize your lines before you show up on set, you are just going to drown. And by doing so, you're just going to drag everyone else down with you. So you definitely have to rehearse before we get to set, because some of those lines are, like you said, tongue twisters. And sometimes they don't make any sense. They're just sort of different words or categories or genres thrown together. And they're rapid fire. So it's been a very interesting undertaking. But now I have to say, going into season 7 and filming even more episodes as of late, it is getting easier, because I do understand the rhythm, and I am able to sort of memorize these bizarre lines a little bit better. And Evan and I get together a few days prior to filming to make sure that we have our lines in check, and we get to throw in little fun things that he and I think of, which is great. Jared and Jacob are usually cool with us trying to, make it our own a little bit, or throw little bits of our own ideas in there, as long as we're pretty much on the page. But it was tricky. I can tell you that much. And we even have days still where it's like, Evan might know my line better than I know my line, and I might know his line better than he knows his line, and it's a little confusing, but it's certainly a lot of fun.
I can't imagine trying to get through some of these scenes against a partner and not break. Have there been moments where you just thought, oh my God, we're going to lose the light. We're just never going to get this. I can't do this scene with Evan. He's just going to kill me.
It's true. And sometimes with the other actors too, like, cause Evan and I rehearse a lot with each other. So sometimes like we, get used to each other's choices and rhythms and things. But when the other actors come into play, and then we have to deal with their reactions. Like, the hockey boys always crack me up, just because it seems like a lot of the characters in our show are growing and evolving, and those guys are just getting dumber and dumber every season. So sometimes doing scenes opposite those guys, I tend to crack, and Jared and the Hicks always have me laughing. And I mean, even with the crack and egg stuff, Glenn is featured quite heavily, and Jacob Cherney is just a freaking wild man.
Yeah, getting to talk to him,
because he's the director and the writer too.
Yeah,
so he can just show up and do whatever he wants. No one's going to tell him otherwise. Where if I come in with a bunch of weird ideas and lines, he'll just tell me to. Can I swear?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. He'll just tell me to, shut up and play my role, So in a very playful, loving way. But because he's got all the power in the world, sometimes he'll just show up on his coverage and just say things that he's never said before, or do things that he's never done before. And he's usually someone who cracks me up for sure.
Yeah, getting to talk to him at ATX Fest, it had not really clicked that Glenn was directing the shows as well. That was hard to get my head around. And then meeting him in person and having to reconcile how outlandish his character is versus just, what a nice guy he is.
Yeah, and he's so sweet and smart and funny. He's kind of reserved, until you get him alone and we're all having a couple cocktails or whatever. But he's very far from that character. That's for dang sure.
One of the things that he had talked about was getting to try these risky things because no one was there to tell you not to, in terms of shot setups, of having three people sitting on a porch with a board that just covers their faces on a TV show, and then or having a single long form joke that just runs 5 or 10 minutes of a show. In terms of other work you've done, Supernatural and Less Than Kind and Shut Eye, and what is a Letterkenny set like for you that makes it stand out and different than your other work?
It is the most fun I've ever had in my life, I think it's fair to say. And it's not just the cast who are there having an amazing time. The set deck, the props, the makeup, hair, everyone involved in the show clearly loves the show. They make room in their schedule to come back every season. And, you'll notice like little Easter eggs in certain scenes or in Modine's, and sometimes in the basement. We'll go downstairs in the skids. We'll have a new painting or a new phrase on the wall. And it's all like relating to old jokes or maybe upcoming jokes. And it's really cool to see the passion all the way down from the top all the way down. It's a rare thing to have everyone very passionate about a show. And I think it's also because, we let our freak Canadian flag fly, right? We could be as weird and Canadian as we want. And we filmed this in a small-ish town in Ontario. So the crew is happy to be representing themselves as well on television. And we all take great pride in the show.
In terms of, you talked earlier about the hockey guys kind of basically, just getting dumber and staying about the same level while everyone else, evolves somewhat. Squirrely Dan's going to his women's studies classes. Everybody's got something going.
Yeah.
From the first or second season, whenever Katie first talks to Stewart on the steps, and it's a really brief moment. I mean, it's still a funny sitcom. Y'all didn't stop and have like an after school special moment, but she looks at you on the steps and says, and you just look like hell. Maybe this isn't working for you. And it's not that Stewart's act cleans up immediately, but there are transformations and there are character arcs. He's a different character than he was 6 seasons ago. As an actor going into a what can be just a silly tongue twister role, what has been your favorite kind of turn or evolution of Stewart to get to play?
Well, it's been really interesting because that scene you mentioned, I think, is when when Stewart was having the meth withdrawals and he was tweaking out on the front steps of the clinic. Yeah. And that scene's a great example of like, these groups, they chirp and they make fun of each other constantly. But when one person's in trouble, you help them, and they do care about each other in their own weird little way. But with Stewart, it's been really nice because when I first started, I had a conversation with Jacob, and we talked about how Stewart was, in my mind, the evil genius of the show. He's not necessarily a bad guy, but he maybe had the worst intentions out of the main 8 cast. And throughout the seasons, you really get to understand that he's just an outcast with a group of other outcasts wanting to feel accepted. And with him having that breakup with Katie, you got to see a little bit of a softer side of Stewart, and then with his relationship with Gay in the later seasons, I think it added like a really nice heart and soul to the show because, especially with the skids, we are clowns, right? We are ridiculous. We bounce off the walls. We dance. We say the silliest shit. And then when Gay came around, you got to see Stewart and rolled out of jealousy in a different light. And it was really enjoyable to kind of go through that arc and explore maybe like a little bit of a love thing with Stewart. And then ultimately, she left and broke his heart. And then, he went back to his old ways for a little while. So I really get to kind of be very, very silly, but I try my best to kind of bring him down to earth, like in that rave episode when no one showed up. That was heartbreaking, I found, for Stewart, and he's had different heartbreaking moments throughout the series so far. So I do enjoy exploring those sort of moments and not just spewing craziness.
Now with that and the Valentine's Day episode, I'm not going to be able to shake this impression of Stewart as Lex Luthor and Wayne as Clark, and just Smallville-ing this out. You're not Lex the villain yet, but this is going to go wrong.
No. Yes.
One too many bad raves.
Too long, Yes, exactly. That was a really great episode too, because Jared and I have been friends for probably a decade now, and he and I talk hockey all the time. And to get a whole episode where he and I sit across from each other and shoot the shit and exchange pleasantries was quite special for both of us.
Yeah, that was honest. It was a beautifully handled episode too. Getting to see this grudging bond and Glenn standing back, just baffled by it. Truly, this is a sign of the end times.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I can't thank you enough for talking to me about all of it today. Let me just nerd out about Letterkenny with you. You've obviously got a sunburn to get back to.
I'm happy to do it. No. I'm happy to chat with you, man.
Oh, no.
I'm actually overlooking the golf course right now. So.
Oh. Now I'm wondering what percentage
of I'm not a golfer at all. I just happen to be situated here.
Oh, I assume there's probably one out the window of almost every resort. I've really never been to Hawaii. I've got to see that sometime. Yeah.
It's pretty special.
In terms of the kind of comedy that you thought you would be doing, learning the dance steps to Footloose in high school. Was sitcom comedy, or was comedy a direction that you really thought you were going to go, or were you just thinking acting? And when did the career kind of start to define for you?
I never really describe myself as a comedic actor or a dramatic actor. I really enjoy acting, and fortunately for me, I've had the opportunity to do both. Jared and I met on a miniseries in Canada about Don Cherry, who is just a national treasure. He's a hockey god, and Jared was playing the older version of Don Cherry, and I was cast as the younger version of Don Cherry. So it was a dramatic miniseries, and that's where Jared and I originally met. And off camera, we're very silly, funny guys. I was always sort of a class clown, but in a respectful way. I wasn't getting in trouble and making fun of people. I was just very silly. And in drama class, we were always allowed to be silly and play and laugh. And comedy has always been very natural to me. I love laughing. All my friends are very funny guys. I hang out with a lot of stand-up comedians back home in Vancouver and improvisers. So we're always kind of just taking the piss out of each other and laughing. So it does, this sort of genre does fit me beautifully. And like we mentioned earlier, it's nice that we can fit a little bit of heart into some of these silly scenes.
That miniseries, that's Wrath of Grapes, right? Is it?
You got it.
Yeah. I would recommend everybody go look that thing up on IMDb at least, because the summary, the actual synopsis they use reads like a line out of Letterkenny. It's just beautiful. It's just one run. Like,
no way. What do you have it on you?
Yeah. 2-part miniseries on Don Cherry following his days in the AHL coaching and his most known time spent on Hockey Night in Canada with Ron MacLean. A good watch for any hockey fan or just a good fan of any good documentary. One sentence, no punctuation. It literally.
Even like. I grew up playing hockey and lacrosse my whole life, and when I was cast as Don Cherry, I'd go back to I grew up in Coquitlam, a suburb of Vancouver, and all the boys I grew up playing hockey and lacrosse with were just like sort of blown away that I got the opportunity to play Don Cherry. So in Canada, they did a poll a little while ago saying, it was like the 100 most influential Canadians or something, and Don Cherry was way up on the top of that list. So there's no lack of Canadianism in the Don Cherry story, I have to tell you that much. Well, so it was kind of perfect that that's where Jared and I met, I suppose. Yeah,
I was just thinking, like, how perfect is it that that's where you and Jared met? I still run into friends of mine that have no idea that he's also Shorzy, and just haven't put it together. At ATX Fest, the guys talked about realizing, or it's not called USO, but doing a show for Canadian troops, and realizing that Letterkenny episodes were being included on the DVDs that were being sent out of like, hey, here's some TV from home. And so they talked about kind of the holy crap moment of 5,000 really excited troops just running at you. And that being kind of their weirdest, oh my God, people are watching Letterkenny moment. Have you had any just crazy moments where you're somewhere where you think, how have you seen this show? And I don't know, how often do you just get Stewart yelled at you?
Yeah, it's happening more and more these days, especially since the episodes where Stewart cut his hair for a bit. So I'm actually being recognized a little bit more, because before with the wig, I didn't really have that problem. Like I would go to hockey games with Andrew and Dylan, who are the hockey players, and guys would ask, for pictures with them, and they'd hand me the camera to take the photo. So it was kind of funny for a little while. And then Dylan and Andrew would be like, well, do you recognize this guy's face? And then they'd finally clue into who I was, and then they'd ask, to have me thrown into the picture and stuff. So for a while there, I was kind of going under the radar, but recently it's been quite cool. Like we were at a hockey game in Nashville like a year and a bit ago, and I saw two people walking around with Letterkenny Shamrocks jerseys, and I thought that was pretty special. And last summer, I was at a music festival on Vancouver Island, and I was at I ended up meeting the owner's son of the ranch. He's actually friends with Dylan Playfair, who was one of the hockey boys. And so we were hanging out at his place, and his father, just asked if I could come upstairs. And as I was walking up the stairs, I heard, Stewart. And I got to the top of the stairs, and it was Snoop Dogg's crew sitting up there, because Snoop was headlining the festival that night. So it was like, 4 or 5 dudes from, I'm sure, all over the States. I don't know where exactly, probably California or wherever else. And they had wanted to talk to me because they were big fans of the show. And so I went up there, like, talking to these dudes. They were asking about the show and asking about my character. And it was one of those moments where it was like, wow, like this is bigger than we ever really thought it could get, not to being pessimistic or anything, but you never really know how a show is going to grow. Like you could be on a show with a bunch of, well-renowned writers and directors, and it might not go anywhere. And this show is just, the little Canadian show that could. So I got to hang with Snoop's crew, and when Snoop headlined the show that night, it was kind of a nice little thing for me and my buddies to know that we were hanging. Unfortunately, Snoop wasn't there, and my biggest regret was not asking his buddies if Snoop watched it. Like I wish I'd been like, hey, so do you guys ever watch it with Snoop? But I was trying to be cool and not pretend like I was as flustered as I actually was.
Yeah, I don't think I could have kept my shit together.
And, a really cool moment too. Really cool moment, like 3-4 years ago. And I don't know if he watched the show or not, but the CSAs, which is the Canadian Screen Awards, we won Best Comedy that year, and we were backstage. And Dave Chappelle was there to honor his Just for Laugh friends. So we just win the award. We go backstage, and Dave Chappelle comes up to us with a whole bunch of whiskey shots. And he goes, hey, guys, congratulations on winning the best comedy this year. And cheers to us all with a little bit of whiskey. And it was like one of those moments where it was like, holy smokes. Like the guy who we have all grown up watching and laughing to is having a cheers for us. And that was pretty special too.
Yeah. It's got to be wild rolling into those moments and realizing that, well, like keeping your cool around Snoop Dogg's gang. That nope, we're peers.
I don't know if I was cool, but I was trying.
But that moment where you gotta set aside whatever imposter syndrome's going on and be like, nope, we are supposed to be here. We just won this thing. We are backstage, and so is Dave.
Exactly.
Hi, Dave.
Exactly. And it's sometimes like like on the way here to Hawaii, there was a dude at the airport who was kind of looking at me, And I looked at him, and he looked away, and he was looking at me, and it was like, I didn't know what was going on, you know? And then he came up, he goes, "You are Stewart," you know? I'm like, "Yeah, I am." He goes, "I knew you were Stewart," you know? And we shook hands, and we chatted for a little bit, and it's kind of fun getting to meet, you know, people in different places that like the show, because it's not lost on us how cool the fans are. Like, I get tweets and and memes sent to me every single day. Some of them, you know, make me laugh, and other ones are like I post onto my Instagram, and the comments will sort of, you know, run its course, and then I'll read them, and I'm like, you know, it's like they're chirping me, you know, they're like, you know, "You're 10-ply bud, you know, toughen up," or whatever. It was like, no, they're not making fun of me. They're quoting the show. They're fans of the show, you know. It's like they don't hate me. They actually like the show. So I got to remind myself that our show is just based on making fun of each other.
One of the things that got mentioned at ATX Fest was that Letterkenny doesn't suffer bullies. That even though it struck me odd, I thought, well, wait, everybody chirps on each other constantly, and it made me really stop and separate out, though, that it doesn't. It's an incredibly diverse fictional town, and and everybody relentlessly chirps on each other. I mean, like, nobody's spared. Derry has the softest birthday, you know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you said, everybody shows up for each other. You know, if friends ask you for help, you help them. And I've always really appreciated that. Has there kind of been a favorite heart moment for you throughout the show, where you've seen a script and gone, that's great?
There is a moment coming up in the season we just shot a few months ago that I think will come out in the next year at least, where one of the characters gets into a little bit of trouble, and you know, Wayne basically says one word, and the entire cast is there to back that individual up. Like, and I know that was very vague, but I don't want to give anything away. There's a moment coming out pretty quick where it was like that moment exactly. It's like, you know, we're all at each other's neck until someone outside of our town or outside of our world, you know, takes a shot at us, and then we all have each other's back. And you know, it's great, because sometimes our jokes to each other are vicious and not over the line, but walking the line. But when we have like a character come in, like Hard Right Jay, and he says some like ridiculous shit, and all of us are like looking at each other like we don't condone his behavior, we don't agree with his opinions, you know, and it was cool. It kind of brought the cast together, or the characters together in a new way, a new element.
Yeah, I love seeing Jay Baruchel in almost anything, and it was amazing to watch that particular episode, because it really did. It was one of the rare times where you had an out-of-towner focus. And we've had D-Gens from upcountry and whatnot, but where we had this out-of-towner come in and go, "I get Letterkenny. You guys are all on my side, see?" And the town go, "What? No.
No, we're not."
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. You know, we got all sorts of folks in our little fictional town. Everyone's welcome.
Yeah, even alleged ostrich fuckers.
Yeah, even they're allegedly.
Allegedly. God, that running bit.
That's such a funny joke to just keep running. Oh my God. And people will tweet that at me all the time. Allegedly, ... you know, allegedly, ...
We're told it was a sick ostrich.
Gonna die.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we're told the ostrich was sick. Every time I introduce someone to the show, I think that's usually the first thing where they look at me and go, "Man, you weren't joking. Everything's a running gag." It's like everything that comes out of their mouth, be it ostrich fucking or you or whatever, all of it is going to become a running gag. You might as well pay attention to every phrase, because it's coming back.
And watch it again, and watch it with subtitles on.
That's exactly what I was going to come back to. What you said earlier about rewatchability. I think the density of language and the playfulness of language and how sure-handed each character's running gags are, it feels very sure of itself, and it makes it incredibly rewatchable, because you can always pay attention to a different subset of people. I bring up again and again, I think the opening to the second season mirrors the first episode, the hockey boys pull up in the drive, and
Oh yeah.
and the Hicks say to them all the chirps that they said, like they just head them off, and it just confuses them, and they back out of the drive.
Yeah.
And I remember going,
Yeah.
that was 6 episodes ago, guys. I don't think you'd be allowed to do this if this were a NBC show.
It's been amazing how the executive producers, the Bell Media, Crave, and now Hulu have allowed Jared and Jacob to do pretty much anything that they want to do. And I think that is why the show is so unique, is because we don't have to follow any sort of guidelines, and we don't have anything to base the show off of. Like, it's not saying that, we want the show to look like this, we want the show to sound like this. It can just simply be the show that Jared and Jacob want to make. And now, that it's had the success that it's had, I think it's just going to continue to add to that uniqueness now, moving forward.
Yeah, I can't wait. I've been watching the screeners, but I don't have subtitles on them, and so I was actually watching one the other day and going, oh man, I'm going to get to rewatch this. Not I'll have to rewatch this because I'm not catching all the words, but oh cool, there's definitely a layer of the jokes that I'm not getting by not having the subtitles on. And
yes.
Yeah. When people are like,
and if you laugh, you might miss a joke.
Oh, straight up. Yeah. I mean, if you're laughing during the crack and ag,
you might miss a joke or two.
Yeah, you're missing what Rold and Stewart are saying, and if you're laughing at what Rold and Stewart are saying, you're missing what's going on in the other. Yeah, constantly.
It's so cool. It's so much. We're going back in a few weeks here, and I'm getting excited just even sitting here today talking to you about it. It's a really special time in all of our lives, and I don't think any of us take that for granted. That's why we all sort of interact with people online, and I'm happy to do interviews. And it's this period in our lives where we're going to look back, 30, 40 years from now and look very, very fondly on these episodes and these months and these years.
Yeah. I do another podcast that's just about creativity and getting unstuck and, getting over self-doubt and fear and stuff. And that's one of the big things that I harp on is anything you make now exists and will exist later when you feel shitty or feel great or whatever. But 20 or 30 years from now, you will all have made this show, and it's always going to be there for us to go, for new people to discover and to go back and find. There's something really, I think, magical about appreciating that.
It's super cool. And I also have moments where I go home at the end of the day and I'm like, wow, that's going to exist forever. that weird thing I did today will live on the internet forever. People sometimes ask me, they're like, how do you do that stuff? Like, how do you not feel embarrassed? And it's like, well, sometimes I do, but what I find is it's more embarrassing when you, either you go for it or you don't go for it. People who sort of walk around the jokes or tiptoe around, that is more embarrassing to me than just going head on. Because at this point, I have my wig on, I've got my nails painted, I am now in the world of Stewart, and Tyler is just somewhere underneath. And it's pretty great. Like having a partner with like Evan Stern and the other two boys, Pat and Danny, we get to just feed off of each other. If one of us has an idea, we all roll with it. We don't squash each other's ideas. And sometimes they don't work and Jacob will yell cut, but sometimes Jacob will just let the scene roll and we just kind of improvise and go off of a vibe and feed off the other characters. And sometimes the strangest, funniest things happen in those moments.
Well, I absolutely fell in love with the show, and I'm so happy that Hulu got it to a place where I could see it and is making more of it. Can't wait. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Hey, it's been my pleasure, Les. It was great chatting with you, and thank you so much for spreading the Letterkenny love and spreading the word down in Austin there. Because, like I said, the cast when they went down there, they had so much fun and they felt the love. And our show grows from people telling their friends, and sharing the links and sharing the clips. The show started out just like a really modest YouTube show, and then became a half hour, 6-episode show, and now we've got this show that we're all rolling with and happy to be doing. And like I said, everyone's extremely passionate about it. So it's I just thank you for spreading the word.
Yeah, now we got Letterkenny and everything. It's too good.
Yes, and they're not slowing down too. We got lots of ideas and lots of things we're hoping to do in the years to come.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. Great chatting with you.
Hey, Les. Yeah, pleasure was all mine. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too, man. Enjoy Hawaii. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener-supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TVDudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter @TVDudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.